The second of these four big kind of uh, initial areas, the second is that American healthcare systems thrive when American healthcare systems. These were lofty goals. American farmers should be put at the center of how we think about health. Number two, American healthcare systems should thrive when diseases and when diseases are prevented and reversed, not just when they're managed in a sick care system. And I love the fact that they actually used the term a sick care system. And I know that RFK Jr. and his cohorts have literally developed that phrase kind of recently. And I mean they're looking for bullet points too,
Yeah.
sound bites. And sick care system is poignant, it's profound versus healthcare system. And so I think I couldn't agree more. Um, but boy, when you talk about a big process to tackle to reverse the incentives in our perverse healthcare system, to reverse the incentives from sick care incentive to prevention and reversal incentive, that's an inversion of the entire, health insurance hospital. It's an inversion of the entire system.
Yeah, and I love that though because we all are incentivized, right? To do things, to have action, we need something to motivate us. And instead of motivating them, using money to motivate them to get like 100% vaccine compliance amongst clients, for example,
Mhm.
wouldn't it be great to see them, to see medical doctors, for example, starting to really dig into the available literature, in fact, of how you can reverse these chronic and autoimmune conditions, right? Because we we all have to be incentivized to do anything in this life when it really comes down to it, right? It's what's important and what matters to you. So if we could get them to start actually putting their focus and intentions on learning how to reverse these conditions and then motivate them to do that by giving them the monetary incentives, the monetary, uh, reward for each patient that has now been fully healed. Like, isn't that a much better use of not of our tax dollars, but also their time? And don't you think that they're going to feel, those medical doctors, won't they also feel a greater sense of purpose, right? And a value in what they are actually able to contribute? They will then go on to actually be healers instead of people who can help someone manage a condition that they know is going to ultimately lead to their demise. They can actually help these people get a second chance of life. Imagine what that's going to do to their overall quality of life themselves.
Sure. So, so I can't help but think as I was reading this, how in our current system, how do you ever make this happen? And I'm reminded of as we in our early podcast when we went back and you uncovered the history of the American Medical Association and the whole Rockefeller Foundation, that whole conspiracy back then. And I'm using the word conspiracy, loosely here, but that agenda, if you will, if you don't like the word conspiracy, um, and how medical care doctors, back before modern times, um, their whole emphasis was um, on curing things. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
they did. So a lot of the early medical colleges were were built up around some guru that figured out how to stop tuberculosis or whatever, and often used homeopathy or some other type of curative agent. And so this whole so my question, Cena, is how do you ever get to a proper incentive until you go to a free market a more free market option. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how you do it under the current, under the current insurance system. Unless underwriters started, keeping track of, medical costs in a business, and gave a business a big, break if they had, um, healthier people, whatever. I don't know, but I just it's a wonderful, lofty goal. I totally get it, but we're so far away from a
Yeah.
market driven, from a an outcome, from a positive outcome driven system, that I just don't see how you get it.
Well, I definitely don't think it's something that would be turned around in one president's term, you know, for
Yeah,
sure,
right,
because
right.
you'd even have to, I mean, to really do it right, to really do it so that they're actually healing people and sustainable. You also have to then change what's being taught in the medical schools.
Ah,
So, I mean, that in and of itself is a huge hurdle with all
yeah.
the funding and the corporate and influence from industry and whatnot. I mean, it's as that changed in the early 1900s, and it's just gotten more and more, in the tentacles, as you will.
Yeah.
So the whole perspective has to change because, like we said, it's sick care. So you've got to get them from the media needs to change the message that they're sending out. It would be great to stop advertising all these pharmaceuticals, for example, but guests that they have on media will have to change, for example, so that the narrative that starts coming out is that these conditions are all reversible. Start sharing success stories. You have to shift the mindset of the American public and integrate that mindset into the medical schools so that the doctors, the soon to be doctors, understand that this is possible, and then they understand how to do it. It's going to have to change the entire curriculum because, in large part, as you know, they're lucky to get one nutrition course, for example, let
Right,
alone learn about herbals
right,
or
right.
homeopathy or any of these or colloidal silver. I mean, you get banned now for saying some of these words. So it will require all of this, all our
Right.
information platforms, in other words, to be
Yeah.
uprooted and redirected.
Right. So last week, Sina, I spoke at the American Institute of Functional Medicine in San Diego, California. They have a annual, it's their big, trade show, if you will. And there were, I don't know, what, 1,200 um, uh, alternative thinking, from naturopaths, homeopaths, functional medicine, all these kinds of things, and to be immersed in a room full of these people, and it was just amazing. I mean, not every single person there was a medical doctor. There were RNs and stuff there as well, but it was amazing to talk to the handful that I did have conversations with, um, and how they literally came to a point where they essentially turned their back. They abandoned the paradigm, the worldview of the American Medical Association. I mean, I'll just say it. And every one of them has faced the chance of having their medical license revoked, of all these things. And it was pretty neat to be amongst them, but it was daunting to know the the how few of them there are, compared to, the great. And there were some pretty, well-heeled people. There were people that had, done their residency at Mayo Clinic, and I mean, these were very credentialed people, but they woke up one morning and realized this is not working. This is not working, and they went on a search of something else. And and now, I mean, the joy, the optimism within that group of generally all of them. I mean, it could be as far away as, red light therapy to whatever, but every one of them was just brimming with testimonials of people with, cancers and diabetes and everything. And people were getting well. It wasn't they were just in some sort of a remission. No, their patients had completely overcome, gotten well, and so the spirit of positiveness and optimism was literally euphoric in the room.
Yes. And that's the picture I was trying to paint. Like, could you imagine having that joy in a Western medicine doctor's office, right?
Yeah.
Because they now have been given this toolbox with this array of tools that they can use to help people heal. So imagine this joyful radiance of a medical doctor. And now imagine you're the patient going in to see a Western medicine doctor who is joyful and positive and tells you, oh, you may have X disease, but we know how to heal that. Like,
Right.
how profound would that be for our culture in general? Yeah. That would lift up so much fear, But again, you have to incentivize people. I think there's a lot more people. You mentioned there's a handful of people who have broken away from the system. I think there's a lot more people than that who have woken up. But how do you get out? A lot of times these people are they're demonized, they're discredited. Sometimes licenses are threatened to be taken away. Sometimes they get taken away. So what incentive do you actually have to break out of that system? Because at the end of the day, they're trying to put food on the table, just like the rest of us. You can't do that if you worked all your life and then you have your license taken away from you, or you're deemed this quack, so you can't survive in the free market. Like,
yeah.
Or you get a YouTube channel and they ban you. So where's your advertisement, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
it
right.
is all. That's what I'm saying. All this, the social media platform, all this has to actually change for what they want to do. I think it's an overhaul of this entire system, and that's why I'm saying it's listed in these documents as it sounds like common sense and it sounds like all nice and pretty, but it's just like trying to change the farm bill. There's so many tentacles in here and weeds to pull that.
Weeds to pull is right. All right. So the number 3, friends, want to dive deeper into our thought-provoking conversations? Become part of the Beyond Labels family today by joining below. For any gift amount, you'll get access to the full uncut episodes.
Every contribution, whether big or small, keeps this podcast going.
So join us and expand your Beyond Labels experience. Thank you.